Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you for joining me for another Third Age Reforged replay battle. Before we get into it, I want to make a couple little minor announcements. One, if you guys haven't taken a look at the Third Age Reforged official channel lately, I recommend that you go and do so, because the first episode of Rise of the Witch King has been released, and it's been out for, I think, about a week or so now. Something like that, like a week or like 5 days, and in my humble, obviously unbiased opinion as the person that made it, I think it's pretty good, and I think it's worth a watch. So yeah, head over there and tell me what you guys think. Second, it's been... Oh wow, that's weird. Sorry, I thought I turned off my Steam overlay. That should not be happening. Second, it's been a while since our last replay, and that's not because of a lack of replays on my part. Many of you guys have sent me in some really awesome replays of your 2v2s and your 1v1s and 3v3s and stuff like that. The reason I haven't really posted any of them, and I've been kind of holding out a bit, is because I find myself posting the same 4 or 5 maps over and over and over, and I want to get something a little bit more varied for you guys. I think that a little bit of diversity would be exciting, so I want to start doing some replays, not just from Third Age Reforged, but also from some other games. I've got Thrones of Britannia that I can play with, which I know is going to make someone out there's head explode. People don't want me to cover that game for some reason. I'm going to do it anyway, though, because I like it, so that's unfortunate for you. I want to try and maybe do some more Warhammer 2 games. There's some other stuff we could do, Shogun, and just other games entirely. There's a campaign mod, medieval campaign mod for Attila that I want to try out, and maybe we could do a brief Let's Play with that. I've also got SFO running on my Warhammer 2, so we could start up another Warhammer 2 campaign. I just need something to kind of spice things up a little bit, because it does really kill one's motivation when you're doing the same game with the same few maps, and usually between 10 or so different factions that tend to crop up a lot because they're fan favorites. So I'm trying to mix it up a little bit, and hopefully that is something that you guys are feeling as well, because I know that me taking a hard look back at everything that I've done over the last while, and it's very similar. It's always on like dry lake bed or grassy plains or something like that. The balanced maps that people really enjoy. So yeah. One of the other things is that if you guys are on the official Third Age Reforged Discord, take a look in the announcements channel. I found a really nice map pack. It was made by a fellow I believe named Swiss Master. There's a link to his channel in the announcement if you guys want to take a look at some of his content. He does some Total War stuff. And they are some really nice, very simple competitive maps that I think are definitely worth taking a look at and experimenting with and playing on. So I want to get those out there into the community so we can all start enjoying them. So yeah, if you're on the Discord, take a look. There's some maps up there that might interest you. But yeah, that just about does it. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the army comps, and then we can jump into the replay itself. Thank you guys for being patient, and I hope you enjoyed the battle. All right, one more tiny detail before we take a look at army comps. I know that there's gonna be pop-ups in the bottom of the bottom right hand of the screen. I don't really know how to turn that off since the new Steam update. Usually I could just go offline, but now I can't, because Steam has changed things around on us suddenly. So believe me, I notice it, and I am just as irritated by it as you probably are. But currently I don't know how to fix that. So in any case, let's move on. The first army we're going to look at today is being commanded by yours truly. I'm going to be playing as Angmar. In fact, this is a themed battle. Angmar versus Arnor. The Angmar forces are invading an Arnorian township. It's more of a township. It's not quite city size, but it's not quite a village either. And yeah, I've brought 3 units, I believe, of these Naga Stalkers, they're an interesting unit right now. They've got pretty good morale, just because of the impetuous trait that they have. It gives them a base of 13, so they've got 12 because of the penalty that Angmar gets to their morale. Got 3 of them. They've got decent damage as well, because Angmar ignores unit size penalties, so they just get the full attack value because of that. I've got 3 units of the Guardians of Karn Doom, who are upgraded with attack and defense, so they make a solid core to my army. A couple units here of Blackwatch Legion, who are also upgraded with their armor. That's what it looks like, that jet black plate mail, which is really cool. I've got 2 units of Witch Realm Pikemen, and these guys have no upgrades, I believe. A couple units of Goblin Trackers, and on top of that, I've got some Trolls of Gundabad. Another unit there of the Blackwatch Legion. 2 units of Warg Riders. One is here, one is hiding out somewhere else. I've got Witch Realm Blackguard as the centerpiece of my army. As a lower morale faction, the Inspire units for Angmar are actually really important. So a unit like the Witch Realm Blackguard actually gives +10 morale to all units nearby within 25 meters. So that is huge. That will make just about any unit out there into an unbreakable elven bastion of courage. And yeah, so it's a very strong bonus, but it is quite in a comparatively small radius. And finally, I've got a unit of ballista, because this is going to be kind of a mix of a siege battle with the fighting inside of the city, but there's also some open areas outside. So I thought it would be a decent idea to invest into a unit of artillery. But that does it for me. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at what my ally has brought to the battle. Over here we have the second Angmar force being commanded by Crunchdock. First time I've played with him. And he's commanding a unit of Witchrealm Inquisitors, which is where his general is going to be hanging out. I think he's got one unit of Word Riders. Yes, indeed. He's got a unit of Trolls of Gundabad himself. A couple units of Blackwatch Legion. Some Guardians of Karn Doom. Less upgrades on them here. He's got some Snaga Stalkers as well. 2 units of Snaga Stalkers that I can see. More Guardians of Karn Doom. Blackwatch Legion. Got some Witchrealm Hammer Guard, and I think I saw some Blackguard in there as well. No, maybe I'm wrong about that. Orkfellers, 2 units of Orkfellers, a couple units of Gundabad Guard. Really strong unit. They're also an Inspire unit, but you can use them for pushing choke points, and all around they're just a really, really nice unit. An important part of the Angmar roster because of that Inspire. Got some Witchrealm Blackguard as well, and 2 units of... There's just the 1 unit. Just 1 unit of Goblin Trackers. Nope, 2 units of Goblin Trackers, and a unit of Snaga Archers. I think that does it. I don't think he has any more Snaga Archers. Oh yeah, and he's got a Ballista as well. So that does it for the Angmar army. Let's go ahead and take a look at the defending Norian forces. Across the field from myself, we have the first Norian army being commanded by DF Revan of Korriban. He's got, I believe, 3 units, at least 3 units of the Arthedain Pikes, a couple units of Dunedain Peacekeepers, a Trebuchet rather, instead of a Catapult, which is a unique artillery piece that only the Numenorian factions have available to them. He's also got some Arthedain Marksmen, I believe 2 companies of Arthedain Marksmen. Another unit of the Dunedain Peacekeepers right there. Dismounted Fornoster Rain Knights to the tune of 2 units of those Human Sword Masters. Another Arthedain Pikeman. Let's see, more Dismounted Fornost Knights. Evendim Spearmen, Arthedain Pikemen, with some Men-at-Arms, I believe, mixed in there as well. And then outside, he's got some more Archers. 1 unit of Evendim Archers right here. A unit of the Royal Court of House Amlythe, and I think he's got some Knights as well. Yes, indeed, a unit here of Knights of Numinas. Now, something to keep in mind is that each of these 2 Arthedain factions have a hidden company of Grey Company and Dunedain Rangers hiding out somewhere on the map. Not too sure exactly where they are at this point in the battle, but yeah, that's something to keep in mind since they are hidden units. We probably won't see them in the opening kind of stages here. Moving on now to his ally, we have the forces of Lucky Hussar, or of Arthedain rather, being commanded by Lucky Hussar. He's got a couple units of Evendim Spearmen, unit of Evendim Archers. He's got Dunedain Mounted Company, I believe just one company of the Dunedain Mounted Company. Arthedain Pikemen, of course, 2 units of the Arthedain Pikemen. He's got some Dismounted Fornoster Rain Knights and 2 units of the Dismounted Knights of Numinas, who are really, really nice, especially the fact that you can bring them in such numbers. They will be possibly changing at some point in the future. That's the subject of much controversy in the Discord right now. I have some patch notes and stuff that are tentative that might happen, so you might see them drop down to 1 unit, but we'll see. Over here we got some Arthedain Men-at-Arms and some Wardens of the North. And I think that, nope, actually he's got a unit here of the Dunedain Scouts. Another company of Dunedain Scouts as well, so 2 units of Dunedain Scouts there for Lucky Hussar. And I think that does it for his arms. Let's go ahead and jump into the battle. In the opening stages here, we're exchanging a little bit of artillery fire. My Ballista is a lot better suited to deal with the Trebuchet than his Trebuchet is to hit my Ballista, just because of how much more accurate the Ballista is, and the clear line of fire that I have. Ooh, my poor Angmar Halberds really taking it on the chin there from the Arthedain Skirmish Forces and from that Trebuchet. But let's pop on outside. You can see my Ward Riders already on the move. My plan here is to punish Revan of Korriban for leaving this unit of Evendim Archers out, just basically to be run down by my wargs. And also, if I can draw these other units here into a fight with my wargs and potentially surround them, both of these units are significantly smaller than my wargs, so I do have the opportunity to surround these 2 units of cavalry and take them out. Even if I lose my wargs in the process, that is a trade that I would make any day of the week. Yeah, you can see a nice charge there into the Evendim Archers, really taking it on the chin here. And DF Revan of Korriban, I don't think he saw my Warg Riders out there, so he is going to mobilize some of his cavalry forces. You can see some Dunedain Scouts coming out of the woods there, along with some Grey Company. Let's get a nice little shot of them. The Grey Company are actually really cool looking. They're mounted ninjas on horseback, and they actually have Aragorn as their leader. They're mounted rangers, so they can do a serious amount of damage with their BP. And this is where I ran into a bit of an issue. My Warg Riders, I was trying to pull them out here, but unfortunately they got really bugged out, and they were just refusing my orders. You can see them slowly start to try and work their way out of this unfortunate little mess here, but unfortunately they are all going to be caught and surrounded. But in the exchange here, he's going to leave his Knights of Inuminas and his Royal Court of House Amleth in the mix with my Wargs, which is kind of what I wanted, but this is not the circumstances that I wanted it to happen in. My Warg Riders are fighting quite hard here and actually doing a fair amount of damage to these Knights and to these 2 HP Lancers. So it is an exchange that doesn't go quite the way the Arthedain player had planned. You can see over here a lot of these Arthedain forces moving forward, looking like they want to try and take a strong position up here on the high ground. But what he doesn't realize is that I've got a ton of Snog Stalkers hidden up here and my Goblin Trackers as well. So I'm going to try and wait for them to come in, but unfortunately I was not as disciplined as I should have been, and I popped this ambush a little bit earlier than I might have otherwise should have. So the Evening Marchers on the DF Korriban moving forward, they don't see this ambush at the last minute. My Snog Stalkers are going to be able to engage with them, but if I had waited and let them come in here, I could have surrounded these 2 units and broken them. So I did kind of jump the gun there, and I'm probably going to pay for that a little bit later on. Moving on back over this way, you can see that my ally and the forces of Lucky Hussar really getting into the mix here. A lot of his Gundabad forces have come up onto this plateau, and we're going to try and defend it at all costs against Arthedain. Use the hills and the terrain to our advantage. But Arthedain is just going to pour in with spears and pikemen. It's going to be down to the Gundabad guards and some of the heavier hitting Angmar units to try and hold the line. Another influx here of more Arthedain pikemen, so that's going to be a big blob of troops. Lucky Hussar spreading out with his skirmish forces here, using his Evening Marchers, likely to great effect, although many of our heavily armored units are going to be shot from the front with their shield value, so they're going to be able to stand up to that for quite some time. Well, here we got some Gundabad Guard charging in against the Evening Spearmen. A nice hammered anvil strike by the Dunedain Mounted Company into the rear of the Gundabad Guard. It's going to potentially cause that unit to rout, although Lucky Hussar leaves them in there quite a while against the Gundabad Guard, so eventually that is going to start to tell against them. More Dunedain Mounted Company coming over this way, prowling through the streets looking for any chinks in the Angmar armor, I should say. Warg Riders over here, along with some Trolls of Gundabad, really doing a number on those Dunedain scouts, killing about a quarter or so of the unit, and many from this other unit over here. So there's still some, not Dunedain, our Angmar forces. They're both very similar. I'm going to mess that up a lot. But there are some down in the lower levels, but it's not really kind of the main thrust of the army. And it probably would have been a better idea to just draw everything up here rather than trying to fight them down there. But hey, do what you got to do. Over this way, we can see some Hobbit units coming out of nowhere. The Hobbits are able to hide, so there's a couple units of Hobbit Slingers. They're an interesting unit. They've got basically unlimited ammunition and very low damage, but they are AP. So they'll probably get some changes since it's crazy for them to have 60 ammunition. But for the time being, they are a really nice harassment unit. But they don't front load a lot of their damage. They kind of trickle in with their stones. So the full brunt of the Arthedain skirmish force being brought to bear here against the Blackwatch Legion, and all these forces stationed up here from Angmar. I made another mistake here with my Blackwatch Legion, which I think is going to be a pretty significant one. So I didn't put them in the shield wall. It's been a while since I've played Reforged, believe it or not. And I didn't put them in the shield wall, and just kind of threw them at the pikes. Now, they have high enough mass that they will be able to just push through slowly, but it's not as devastating as the shield wall push. And what we really need right now is to just kind of sweep these guys away and push through down into their elites and down into their skirmishers, but unfortunately it's just not working out that way for me. You can see a big push there from the Blackwatch Legion, trying to muscle their way in. But without that shield wall, it is going to be a lot harder than it needs to be. Over on this side, my Blackwatch Legion, along with a unit of my Angmar Halberds. Did I mention my Angmar Halberds? Yeah, I had 2 units of Angmar Halberds. That's my bad, guys. They're really giving what for to this unit, to these combined units of Dunedain Pikemen and Dunedain Peacekeepers, or Arthedain Pikemen and Dunedain Peacekeepers. But they are kind of being shelled relentlessly by Revenant Korriban skirmishing forces. I have managed to drive back the Trebuchet for the time being, so I don't have to worry about this Trebuchet and the choke point blowing massive holes in my line. So that's a nice win for me. I've got my My ballista in a good spot. It's just kind of holding its fire for the time being, because there's not really a lot of juicy targets for it to try and focus down. I could, pardon me, I could maybe shoot some of the Arthurian pikemen, but I would definitely be shooting my own elite units, and yeah, definitely not what I want to do at this point. You can see the Knights of Inuminos and the Royal Court of House Amlith, fresh from having destroyed my poor companies of wargs. This is really a big loss for me. I did manage to cripple those units of cavalry, but it will come back to haunt me a little bit later, and you guys will see why. But yeah, moving on. Let's kick things up to full speed here. Move back to this choke point. The Angmar forces doing their best to hold the line, but that constant skirmish fires, especially from the Hobbit Slingers, these 2 units of Hobbit Slingers, and everything else they got down here, it is really quite nightmarish for us. See some good and bad trolls prowling in the back streets here. Maybe going to be used to... Oh, I see what they're going for. The good and bad guard are still over here fighting these Evendim spearmen. Pardon me, but with a charge from the rear from those good and bad trolls, that is going to be all she wrote for this unit of Evendim spearmen. So let's take a quick zoom out here and just kind of look at the disposition of forces now that everybody's kind of locked in. Lucky Hussar has really committed quite heavily over here, and this is where the majority of his forces are, I should say. So if we manage to break his infantry there and push down into his skirmishers, we could basically destroy his army. And most importantly, the 2 Arthurian forces aren't really fighting together. It's kind of in that way, it's really in Angmar's favor, because we can concentrate our forces basically anywhere here. We can double team both of these, or one of these factions, and really work at breaking them down, whereas they can't really move in to easily reinforce each other. So that's probably the biggest drawback here to Arthurian's deployment, but they are in a fairly good position themselves, with a lot of our elite forces having to be committed down here. They've got the massed skirmishing power of their faction able to be brought to bear against some important units from us. So it's really anybody's game at this point. You can see over here I'm committing with my Witch Realm Blackguard. I want this lane here to remain as steady and stalwart as possible. So they're going to get in there, they're going to push against some of these pikes, and now with the influx of the Dune 9 Peacekeepers, these guys are really going to have their work cut out for them. But I think that ultimately the Angmar forces will be able to push their way through here. They are better in this kind of just protracted fighting than Arthedain is. Arthedain really relies on their cavalry and their skirmishers, obviously, as you've seen in this battle. So when it comes down to a straight quality infantry fight, Angmar is actually going to have a bit of an advantage. Let's take a look at some of the reserves we got here. Actually, let's pop on over to the other side. And you can see more and more Arthurian forces have moved in here against my my Snaga Stalkers, and I'm content to let these units die. Honestly, it's really no problem for me to just kind of throw those units under the bus. The first one is really cheap, but the big problem, and you just saw the last one fall, is that I moved my good and bad trolls over here, and that was not a good idea. I should have moved in with some infantry and just slowly ground these guys down. I had some nearby infantry, so committing my trolls to this was really not a strong decision on my part. And it is one that I think could potentially be game-breaking. If I was using them in a choke point over here, in this big, important choke point where we're trying to break the majority of Lucky Hussar's infantry forces, they would have done a lot better. Although, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that they might get shot a lot more, but they can push into the enemy units. So if they're getting shot, then everything else around them is getting shot as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. But yeah, if I had to go back and do it again, I would definitely rethink the deployment of my good and bad trolls. Over here, Witch Realm Pikemen moving forward slowly, really taking a beating, and that's because some hidden ranger units have come up. I got some Grey Company up here, and I believe there's a company of Dunedain Rangers in here as well. I could be incorrect about that. But there's definitely a company of Grey Company, and they're really putting the hurt on my Witch Realm Pikemen, and that is very unfortunate for me. I was counting on this unit to help me push through the Arthedain pikes and to really leverage the close quarters abilities of my Witch Realm Blackguard. But now that they've been basically cut down to a third of their strength, that is not going to go nearly as well for me. My ally here, Crunchstock, committing some Snaga Stalkers. Not a terrible unit. Gonna help with a lot of numbers there. They got about 5 attacks, so it's really not that bad. See my Witch Realm Blackguard right there on the front lines. So let's go ahead and get a screenshot right there. A nice little cheeky screenshot. We can use that for the thumbnail. And they're really putting the hurt on the dismounted Fornoster Rain Knights and stuff like that are on the front line. but slowly but surely they are being ground down. But this is a fight that's still very much in my favor. Moving on back to this side, it's anybody's game. More and more reinforcements from either side are being poured in. Another company of the Blackwatch Legion are in there, but my ally makes the same mistake that I do, not putting them into shield wall and just muscling through. So that's a big problem for us. Looks like some Guardians of Karn Doom have come down from the heights and are now flanking the forces of Arthedain. Some even archers being kind of thrown under the bus. Ooh, a lot of skirmish fire being brought to bear, but these guys are heavily armored. They have a great shield value. They're going to be able to stand up to that for quite some time. Oh man, those even archers really taking it on the chin. This is not the kind of fight that they are equipped to win at all. The Guardians of Karn Doom are far and away a superior infantry unit. But with those Hobbit Slingers really bearing down on these guys, really, it's anybody's game. Pardon me. Got some Orc Fellers, and I believe there's some Witch Realm Hammer Guard in here as well, which I might have missed in the introduction. And they're pushing hard against the company here, the Dismounted Forknoster Rain Knights, and of course they're going to lose that fight. This is a lot of AP, and the Dismounted Forknoster Rain Knights are not as good against AP as another Human Swordmaster unit would be. The one I have in mind is the Dalian Swordmasters, who have a lot higher melee defense and a lot lower armor, so the AP is not as strong against them. Got some Blackwatch Legion coming in from the rear. This could be a huge breakthrough and a really good move on the part of my ally Crunchdock. If he can bust through this very thin line of Arthedain forces and get in here, not only can he shut down their entire skirmish line, but if he can destroy them quickly, a lot of them are hobbits too, so they'll rout pretty easily. If he can get in behind these guys, that's game over. That is game over for Arthedain right there. So this is really for all the marbles. If Arthedain can't shut down my ally Crunchdock, then Arthedain is going to fall. It's just plain and simple. Let's see what we got over here. Some Dune Knight Rangers from their Lucky SR now out of ammunition. Pushing against the Guardians of Karn Doom. The Guardians of Karn Doom are going to chew these guys out. And even the Dune Knight Rangers won't do very well against a heavily armored unit like the Guardians of Karn Doom. Yeah, it's really anybody's game at this point, but ooh, some Wardens of the North. AP Archers being brought to bear against the Blackwatch Legion. That is going to be significant. My ally probably needs to pull these guys out right now and get them into the Wardens of the North. Even if they don't beat the Wardens of the North, at least they're not going to get shot to death, and they'll be shutting them down, and they can probably do a fair amount of damage to them as well with their decent combat stats. But yeah, over here it's really started to thin out a lot more, and you can see it going sort of in favor of Angmar, especially with the hill advantage, but with the influx of 2 units now of the Dismounted Knights of Innuminas, or actually they've been in there for a little while. It's gonna be tough. And if we look at some of the reserves here, there's not a whole lot left. Now this is really significant. If you look at this front line, I am definitely winning. I'm pushing my way through here. Revenant Korban is in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have any other reserve units, and a lot of his forces are actually occupied over here. And you can see me slowly but surely starting to break through. So I am breaking through in my fight against Arnor, and if I can get through into the back and attack him from the rear, that's game over. Revenant Korban is done, and then we'll be able to focus all of our attention on his ally Lucky Hussar, who is already kind of struggling against my ally Crunchdock. But because this is my first time on this map, I didn't know that they could get up here. So this totally caught me by surprise. I was not expecting it at all. And a devastating charge here from the Royal Court of House Amlight right into the rear of my infantry body. It's really going to make all the difference. Revenant Korban is just going to pull out of there as quickly as he possibly can. And he's got a cycle charge back in. You can see, ooh, that was very nice. Those Witch Realm Inquisitors almost got themselves fricasseed. There's actually a unit of what remains of the Knights of Innuminas in here as well. And they're going after our ballistas, but now that my ally has moved in with his Witch Realm Inquisitors, this should be game over. But unfortunately, the Inquisitors are not going to be able to help my front line, and another devastating Lancer charge from the rear is really going to turn this fight around. Some Hobbitry arms over here, not an amazing unit, but against what I have left, which is mostly my Goblin Trackers and stuff like that, they're going to do just fine. Now that many of my infantry units have been crushed underfoot by the cavalry of Revenant Korban, and this is the thing that really killed me in this fight. We would have probably won up here for sure and crushed Revenant Korban if I was able to have some kind of answer to the Royal Court of House Amlight. So if I had my works, for example, if they didn't get bugged out on a ramp and I was able to use them, this might have been a different story. But as it is right now, Revenant Korban has really put the hurt on my remaining infantry corps. A great move there from him, really paying attention to the terrain and using it to his advantage. Popping down back this way, Guardians of Karn Doom. I think they got charged in the rear by the Dismounted Knights, or the Knights of Innuminas. Now they're pushing down slowly against the remaining Arnor infantry. Down here in the city, it looks like the Guardians of Karn Dûm have been destroyed. Over here, the Witch Realm Hammer Guard making their way through. Great Company under Lucky Hussar. He's actually getting a little bit desperate here, I would imagine. The Great Company are not exactly amazing in close quarters, and neither are his other horse archers, but it's really all that he has left at this point. Dunine Rangers here trying to hack apart the Orc Fellers. Surprisingly enough, they've stood up to it pretty well, but there is some Witch Realm Hammer Guard in there as well, and that's gonna be far too much for the Dunine Rangers to handle on their own. Over here, Bandit Brass Archers under Lucky Hussar being cut down. It's really just a bloody mess down here in the city. Cycle charges, more cycle charges from the Great Company. Honestly, it's not going to do too much. Most horse archers are capped at 1 charge. So, yeah, they're really not all that devastating. But you got to do what you got to do. Back over on this side, it seems like Arthedain is beginning to break through. And this is kind of the breaking point for us. We don't have a ton of infantry left over. I have some. I've got a nearly full company of Guardians of Karn Dûm, which I'm bringing back to the front lines because we're going to desperately need them. And I've got some pikemen over here, a small number of Witch Realm pikemen. I'm going to use them to shut down this unit of even dim archers so they can stop pew-pewing my line with impunity. But over here, it looks like we got some Dunine scouts as well. Some remaining Dunine scouts from Revenant Korriban. And they're going to be brought to bear against my front line, which has now been scattered. Some dismounted Fornost Array Knights that were held in reserve. Ooh, this is really nasty. I've still got my general, surprisingly enough. I got about 6 Witch Realm Blackguard here, and I'm trying to use their formidable melee abilities to take down the Arthedain general here, Revenant Korriban's general. If I can destroy him, maybe I have a chance to scatter some of these units. Great Company moving forward, and they're going to be going right for my ballista. Of course they would be. Oh, it looks like they've still got some ammunition, so they're going to try and get in behind, perhaps? No, they're actually going to shoot at my loose formation ballista, which is probably not a great idea. Witch Realm Inquisitors bearing down on them. And there goes, I believe that is Korriban's general. Got a little bit too close to the front line here, which is starting to fall apart, but there are still enough men to drag his general down and destroy him. And now, dismounted Fornost Array Knights being held in place by my ally, Crunchstock, and that's going to give me an opportunity to come in with my Guardians of Karn Dûm. And now we've got these dismounted Fornost Array Knights that have been so carefully held in reserve for just this kind of breakthrough. We've got them pinned in place. I'm going to be going after them with my Guardians of Karn Dûm, and they're going to surround them, and that's going to be all that she wrote. Help is on the way, however. A lot of these valiant hobbits. Got some Bandit Brass Archers there, I think. Maybe some Hobbit Slingers. Hobbitry and Orms. Some Dunine Scouts and such charging forward to reinforce the front line. But my Guardians of Karn Dûm are capable of taking down all of these units, even all at once, because they are such a formidable infantry unit, especially with the influx of these Witch Realm Inquisitors now surrounding these Fornost Array Knights. They are in a lot of trouble. See what we got over here. A unit of Snaga Archers, still with ammunition that my ally has held in reserve for just such an opportunity. And he's going to begin to pour fire into the Hobbitry at arms and to the Hobbit units, which is a great idea. They are lower on morale than a lot of the Arthedain regulars, so this is going to be really important. You can see some of the Hobbitry at arms breaking pretty well immediately, especially thanks to the presence of one of those Witch Realm Inquisitors. So now DF Revenant Korriban has brought up his Trebuchet, and that's a big problem for us. A direct hit onto my Guardians of Karn Dûm would be a nightmare. So we've still got 2 ballistas, however, which have a pretty good line of sight on this Trebuchet, and they're going to begin to target it down, and hopefully they'll be able to destroy it in time. Ooh, nasty. Good shot there, destroying one of my ballistas. And ballistas are really having trouble here getting their act together, but luckily my ally knows what he's about, and these ballistas are just about ready to fire. Let's take a look at what's going on down here. It's just a thin black line of Guardians of Karn Dûm basically being held in place by the presence of my general up here. They're close enough to benefit from his plus 10 morale. So these guys will hold for basically ever until they are dead, but it's really only a matter of time. There's so many Arthedain forces still left down here, and those 2 companies of the Dismounted Knights of Angmar we just haven't really had an answer to. Ooh, we can see some shots from the ballista igniting that Trebuchet, and that's going to be game over for the Trebuchet. It's going to quickly light itself on fire. Maybe it will get one more shot before it falls to cinders. Nope, maybe not. Well, this guy's still working at it. Look at him. He's diligently going for it. Oh, lucky little bastard. You can see that ballista shot there. Just 2 feet from him. And there you have it. Oh, man. Someone falls on him and he dies. It's really unfortunate. Great Company Dunine Scouts just given our artillery pieces a pounding. Now the artillery is going to start focusing on the Dunine Scouts and the Great Company, who are nice and bunched up for them. Meanwhile, Guardians of Karn Doom, they have hacked those dismounted Fornos Terrain Knights to pieces and are doing the same thing to the Arthedain Marksmen. But at this point, our front line has basically fallen apart. There's like 1 or 2 Guardians of Karn Doom. If we could just hold these guys back a little bit longer, maybe we'd have an opportunity. Down here in the valley, Wardens of the North, along with the constant cavalry charging of Lucky Hussar, has put an end to the Angmar forces down in the village. Now, they could have done so much for us, and it's really unfortunate. But with some deft cavalry play, Lucky Hussar was able to nip that particular danger in the bud. And now it's just a matter of time before Arthedain overwhelms the forces of Angmar. But still, it's a fairly close battle. About 8% difference, and that's only going to increase as more and more of these Hobbit units and some of these marksmen and stuff from Revenant Korriban get themselves cut down. Let's see what we got here. Come on, I really want to see. Oh, looks like these guys just run out of ammunition. I really want to see them get shot by the ballista. It's always glorious when that happens. Let's see what we got going on over here. Dismounted Knights of Inuminos and Lucky Hussar's forces generally have broken through our choke point that we've managed to hold basically for the entire battle up until this point. And that's going to put our artillery pieces in a lot of danger. You can see over here, the Grey Company under Lucky Hussar have managed to silence my artillery. I was trying to move them a little bit farther up the hill so we'd have an overlapping field of artillery fire that we could use to really bleed Korriban as he came down the ramp. But unfortunately, my plans have been nixed by Lucky Hussar's cavalry, really proving their worth in this game. Witch Realm Inquisitors chasing off what remains of the Grey Company and the rest of the Arnorian cavalry. But really the damage is done at this point. The game is more or less over. Guardians of Karn Doom surrounded on all sides, fighting hard, but really there's not a lot of hope for them. Let's go ahead and we'll kick it into to 6 times. Watch everybody run around frantically decapitating each other in a comedically fast fashion. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna take a picture of that. And there you go. My Guardians of Karn Doom have now broken. I think my general has fallen as well. And it's really just down to my ally at this point. I mean, I've still got some forces left. He's got his Witch Realm Inquisitors, and I've got my my Witch Realm Pikemen, who have finally managed to get around into the rear, but it's far too little too late. Witch Realm Inquisitors fighting bravely, but ultimately this is a futile struggle. There's no way that they can hack their way through all of the remaining forces from Arnor. Still, quite close. Not but a 9% difference so far. There we go. And they're going to retreat and flee and look for another opportunity. We'll see them. They'll come back, and we'll see what happens with the Witch Realm Inquisitors. Don't worry, you'll get your closure. Meanwhile, the rest of the Arthedain forces have espied my my Witch Realm Pikemen, and they're going to be swarming against them with everything that they've got. I'm trying to get myself into a good position here. Get myself into spear wall, and then into defensive formation. Arthedain seems content to just pew-pew at me. Very unfortunate. My Witch Realm Pikemen going to take a charge there from the front with the remaining might of Arnor, and they're going to break almost immediately. You can see my ally coming around pretty quickly as well. Those Inquisitors can really haul ass. And they're going to charge in here, and that's going to be everything that is left from Angmar. So this raid has been unsuccessful, but I'm sure the Witch King has more legions at his disposal, and this is not the end of the war by any means. Go ahead and fast forward just a little bit here. Ooh, a little bit of lag. Witch Realm Inquisitors doing their best. There goes the Angmar general. Final count, about 8% difference. So it was a good game to my ally and to my opponents. Quite close indeed. Really, there's the main kind of thrust of their army is those 2 units of the Dunedain Knights and the Wardens of the North, and that's like the big powerhouse they have left. Everything else is like hobbits or even dim archers. So it was a good game. Let's take a look at the casualties there, because I know I forget that sometimes, and people are never happy about it. Guardians of Karn Doom doing well enough. A couple of them, I think, the 65 and the 38, they got shot a lot. Witch Realm Pikemen, yeah, that one unit really got themselves destroyed, but the other one did well against the Arthedain Pikemen. They got a lot of kills. Angmar Halberds paying for themselves. My Goblin Tracker's getting a fair amount of kills as well. Warg Riders, they did okay for being trapped and surrounded because of unfortunate bugginess. Snaga Stalkers, yeah, they did alright. It's kind of a mixed bag. He went from incompetent to actually really good with 115 kills. My ally here did well as well. 165 on those Witch-Realm Inquisitors. Not bad. 210 on the Hammer Guard. They really took a lot out of the Norian Forces. Trolls are good and bad, 123. I don't think my trolls did very well. Let's see where they are. Only 107. Yeah, they could have done way better. Good and bad guard doing well. All around, it was a really good battle. So that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed. Coming up next, I want to do something different. If I can't find a really cool replay, or if I can't get the Dol Amroth 4v4 siege that I have, that I had sent to me working, I mean, I recorded an intro for it, and then it just crashes every time I open it now. So I don't know. Maybe if I can track down who sent it to me and then get him to send it back, then I can give you guys a nice siege battle, which I know many of you have been hungry for. But if not, then I'll try and do something a little bit different with some different games. Maybe we'll start another campaign or something like that. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this so far, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.